Welcome aboard Pink Monorail. I'm your pilot, Michelle Valladolid, and next to me is my co-pilot, Noe Valladolid.
Hey everybody.
Last time, we talked about how Walt was preparing to build Disneyland. This time we're going to continue. We're going to start out with Art Linkletter and Bob Hope. They both recounted during their lives that Walt offered them each part of Disneyland for an investment. Both turned him down and lived to regret it. Now, I met Art Linkletter.
Did you?
At the 50th, we got coffee together.
Now, for those that don't know, Art Linkletter used to host several game shows and television shows in the Los Angeles area. What was the most famous show that he hosted?
It was one with kids.
Was it You Bet Your Life? No, that was Groucho.
It was Kids Will Say Anything or something like that.
Kids Say the Darndest Things.
Something like that, yeah.
Okay, so so both Art Linkletter
and Bob Hope
had a chance
to invest in Disneyland, and both said no.
Oh, no.
Walt was out of money. He had borrowed on his life insurance and sold his vacation home in Palm Springs. Lillian was worried. She wanted to know what would become of her if something happened to Walt. Walt had let the studio go public in 1940, so there was no help there. He started his own company, Walt Disney Incorporated, to do work on the park. Shareholders were furious, so he changed the name to WED Enterprises. Good old WED Enterprises. It was incorporated on December 16th, 1952. Hazel George, who we heard about from the train episode.
She was the nurse, right?
The nurse. Organized a fundraising effort at the studio, and many of Walt's employees gave $5 or $10 here and there. Walt took out $100,000 in personal loans. One night, Herbie Ryman was called in on a Saturday by Walt to do the now famous rendering of Disneyland as concept art. Herbie had been working for MGM, where he helped design sets for many films, including The Wizard of Oz. Walt saw a display of his work at Chouinard Art Institute, which later became CalArts, and hired him away from MGM. At the studio, he art-directed films like Dumbo and Fantasia. He left Disney for Fox in 1946, so Walt was the last person he thought would call him. Walt said he was building an amusement park and wanted to show investors a drawing of the park. Herbie said he wanted to see the drawing, and Walt said, "You're going to do it." He refused, and Walt cajoled, pled, and begged, and finally said, "Will you do it if I stay here with you?" Ryman agreed. They pulled an all-nighter into the next day. The castle came first, tall enough to be seen around the park. This didn't actually happen until Walt Disney World. Very people-oriented. Hub at the end of Main Street, where all the other lands will radiate from, like the spokes of a wheel. "I've been studying," Walt said, "the way people go to museums and other entertainment places. Everybody's got tired feet. I don't want that to happen in this place." It happens.
Yeah.
"I want a place for people to sit down and where old folks can say, 'You kids run on, I'll meet you there in a half hour.' Disneyland is going to be a place where you can't get lost or get tired feet unless you want to." It was 43 inches by 70 inches on tissue. Ryman sketched out trees, rivers, Mississippi sternwheelers and rigged ship on the river, a carousel behind the castle, blocked out lands, Frontier Country, Holiday Land, Mickey Mouse Club, Fantasyland, Lilliputian Land, World of Tomorrow, and True Life Adventureland. Fueled by tuna sandwiches and milkshakes, 40 hours later they were finished. Now, this was not, they'll tell you when they show you the picture that this is how Walt and Herbie sketched out all of Disneyland. It's not true. And if you buy the new book, The Happiest Place on Earth, which is the best book ever written about Disneyland.
It's a really good book.
They actually had been doing sketches of the park since the Burbank days. And there were about a dozen in existence of it developing. And in the book, they show the development of the drawings. Yeah. And it's amazing. So, little piece of what people thought was history was not actually the history.
There's an entire chronology of designs for the park. It's not just one day they took out a giant sheet of butcher paper and rendered the whole thing out.
Exactly. And that's how the story went for a few years. Walt had given one clear command in the beginning. "I just want it to look like nothing else in the world, and it should be surrounded by a train." Walt's brother Roy, whom we'll hear all about when we get to the Florida project, took the drawing back east to meet with the TV networks to pitch a show to them. In 1947, Roy had ordered televisions for all the Disney executives, and in 1948, Walt spent a week in New York watching television all day and all night. He knew television would be a big thing. In 1950, he had a study done, which said, "Start small." Instead of a series, he launched a TV special on Christmas Day. He roped in Bill Walsh to produce it. When Walsh protested that he didn't know how to produce a TV show, Walsh's reply was, "Who does?" Walsh started out as a publicist, then a TV writer, then worked on Fun and Fancy Free, and stayed on with Disney after that. He worked on Mickey Mouse comic strips. 1 Hour in Wonderland is hosted by Walsh's old boss, Edgar Bergen, and his dummy, Charlie McCarthy. They drive to a holiday party peopled with teenagers, and Walt Disney makes an appearance sitting on the Lily Bell train. "So you see," says Walt, "this is the result of being a good boy for 30 years. Which is kind of sad, being that he wasn't allowed to have toys when he was a good boy when he was little.
Yeah, that is kind of a bummer. Also, Edgar Bergen and his dummy characters, weren't they also the host of Fun and Fancy Free?
Yes.
Oh, so if you people are wondering who these people are, the younger kids today are wondering who these actors and their characters are, look up Fun and Fancy Free on Disney Plus or DVD if you have it.
And I believe Edgar Bergen and Charlie McCarthy now reside in the basement of the Magic Castle.
And to make things even weirder, there was an actress named Candice Bergen who was the star of the show, Murphy Brown?
Murphy Brown.
And she was the daughter of Edgar Bergen. So when he passed away, he left all of his money to the dummy and not to his daughter. So she's got some things to sort out, unfortunately.
Is that true?
Look it up.
All right, I'll look it up.
Allegedly, as my lawyers would say, allegedly. If I'm not sure about a fact.
Let's go back to the special.
Okay.
Walt summoned the magic mirror, who grants a wish for someone. The sponsor was Coca-Cola, so Walt wishes for a pause for a little refreshment, and bottles of Coke appear on the table. The second wish is for a preview of the upcoming film Alice in Wonderland. He picked up 90% of the viewing audience in America. A huge success. Could you imagine if some show picked up? They say if you pick up 23%, you're a huge show.
Yeah,
now.
Even like the late night shows, they're between 1 and 2 million people. So back then, having 90% millions of people tuning in.
That's crazy. The next Christmas was Walt Disney's Christmas show. Another success. All of the networks wanted a Disney series. The studio wasn't sure they could make 26 little movies a year. Walt knew that television was the ideal medium to get people informed about Disneyland. Plus, it would help pay for the park.
So this was circa 49-50 or circa 48-49?
About 1952-53.
52-53. Okay. Well, hold on now. Let's make a wish. We're going to pause and wish that you listen to some of these sponsors that we have lined up. And we're back.
CBS and NBC wanted a series, but wanted nothing to do with a damned amusement park, as NBC's David Sarnoff called it. Roy ended up calling Leonard Goldenman head of ABC, and in the new book, there's a picture of Walt and Leonard Goldenson wearing mouse ears. So go get that book. ABC started as a radio station in 1943 and had hits like The Lone Ranger and The Green Hornet. It moved into television in 1948 and didn't do as well. He said, "Roy, where are you? I'll be right over." He bought ABC in 1951 and found it rough going. ABC would invest $500,000 into the park and pay Disney $50,000 per episode of the Disneyland TV show. In exchange, ABC owned 35% of Disneyland. It was a 7-year deal with option for an eighth at $5 million per year. At $40 million total, it was the biggest programming package in history at the time. Western Printing and Lithography, who printed Disney books at the time, put in an additional $1 million. When the dust settled, Disney owned 34.48% of the park, ABC 34.48%, Western Printing 13.8%, and Walt himself 16.5%, with options to buy out ABC and Western in 2 years. Walt was working on 3 of the most expensive movies to date, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Sleeping Beauty, and Lady and the Tramp, all in CinemaScope. Let's look at Walt's notes. Half-hour TV show presenting Disney hits of the past. Something of the present. And things to come. Special TV films to be produced. History of things. Fun with facts. Music for the lowbrow, you and me. We can all draw. It's a cinch. Dash, The Lowdown on Art, A Good Cook's an Artist. Dash, The Origin of Fables, Aesop, Le Fontaine, Grimm. Drawing contests, story contests, Disneyland contests, plenty of prizes. There was even a scheme that, fortunately they nipped in the bud, to give away ponies born and bred at Disneyland.
Well, you can't blame Walt for not coming up with ideas to help advertise his park.
In the fall of 1953, Disney was putting together a feasibility study to see in reality how they could create Disneyland. Harper Goff said in Disney's Land by Richard Snow, "My wife and I traveled thousands of miles all over the United States trying to find information about, for example, what proportion should there be of men's toilets to women's toilets, how much thievery, how many people came in a car, how big a parking lot." They timed dark rides at the Pike in Long Beach, which we talked about in an earlier episode. Buzz Price thought he got the best data from the San Diego Zoo in Balboa Park, San Diego, which we also talked about that in an earlier show. You may wonder why I'm going into such detail in Disneyland when every other place or event only took 1 or 2 episodes. The answer is because there's just so much information out there. Books like 3 Years in Wonderland, Disney's Land, and The Happiest Place on Earth make my job very easy. It's just wading through the ton of information and trying to figure out what you, the listener, will find most interesting.
Well, I think for a lot of people that are tuning into these episodes and have tuned into previous episodes, I think they like digging in the weeds. And when you have a podcast that focuses on a specific topic, skateboarding, for example, the old Hawk versus Wolf podcast, they would apologize to the audience that they're getting a little lost in the weeds. But that's when they were being the most fascinating. All of these interconnected stories and these histories that unless we share them, they're going to be stuck in the back pages of a book and people might not know about it. So this is the chance to share it for the real fans.
You make a good point. Back to Walt. Walt got over his fears of cemeteries long enough to study Forest Lawn and decide that Disneyland should be lushly planted. C.V. Wood first came up with the idea of bringing in outside companies as sponsors. I talked about Smithfield at Disneyland in an earlier episode.
Now, for the people that don't remember, Smithfield was the restaurant chain.
That's right.
That had the pressure...
The food processor.
The food processor that had a couple of restaurants at the end of Main Street and the giant, broiler? Or was that another company?
That was Broiler?
Wasn't that had been sealed off forever?
Oh, the Broaster.
The Broaster.
The Broaster in the Red Wagon Inn, yes.
Was that the company or a different company?
That was the company.
Huh.
The Smithfield at the Red Wagon Inn, yes.
See, I remember. Go back to the early episodes if you forgot.
The map that Walt and Herbie worked on to get New York's network heads to take the bait was now used to attract contracts, first and last year paid up front. The Happiest Place on Earth says that participants included Bank of America, Kodak, Wurlitzer, Carnation, Chicken of the Sea Tuna, and Maxwell House Coffee. By the time I was 6, it was Hills Brothers Coffee.
Mm-hmm. And the Chicken of the Sea were the ones that sponsored that boat.
The ship, the pirate ship. This gave, the book says, Disney a final injection of cash and provided them with loyal operators with skin in the game. And that means their success rode on Disneyland's success. If Disneyland made money, their companies ostensibly would too. On October 27th, 1954, the first Disneyland show aired. It included Kirk Douglas and Peter Lorre on the set of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Mark Davis and Milt Kahl, whom Mark Davis said was the greatest animator who ever lived, drew a dancing Aurora model from Sleeping Beauty. Speaking of Milt Kahl, Andreas Deja, the animator, is finishing up his eagerly awaited biography of Milt Kahl. It will be available, I'm sure, at Stuart Ing's bookstore. If you've ever seen the Mark Davis Academy lectures that Andreas has put on, you know you're in for a treat. Nobody demonstrates animation like Andreas Deja, a brilliant animator in his own right. I'll let you know more about the book as it gets closer to release. In the special, Walt appears with the Disneyland story. You'll find that Disneyland, the place, and Disneyland, the TV show, are all part of the same, he says. That was his genius when it came to Disneyland and the show, making it all part of the same in the American psyche. People got invested emotionally in the TV show and automatically became emotionally invested in the theme park.
Even though it didn't exist at the time.
Even though it didn't exist at the time.
Like people these days would like to visit the coffee shop from Friends, or to visit 1313 Mockingbird Lane from the Munsters, but those were always just television sets. You could never visit the actual locations.
But this was a real place that they could visit.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of people said it was like coming home the first time they visited.
Even though they had never been there.
Even though they'd never been there. Yeah, that's how I felt about Epcot. I felt like coming home even though I'd never been there. Because I'd read so much about it.
Right. And when you actually set foot there.
Yeah, it was really something. 52% of people with television sets watched, which is still, it's not 90%, but it's a huge number.
And to watch it weekly.
Walt aimed at a July 17th, 1955 opening date. It gave them 9 months to build the park, but have it open in time to capture lucrative summer business. McNeil Construction offered the lowest bid, and they were already building a soundstage on the Disney lot. They estimated the cost to be between $3 and $6 million. They ended up subcontracting over 60 contractors. The Opera House was the first new building at Disneyland, and it was big and empty inside, so they used it as a millworks and wrought iron shop. In July 1954, Walt hired his Holmby Hills gardeners, Evans and Reeves Nurseries, to do the huge job of landscaping Disneyland. Jack Evans and Morgan Bill Evans, brothers, were on the landscaping team, as well as landscape architect Ray Miller and agronomist and soil expert Dr. Jack D. Scoss. Now, you may recognize the name Morgan Bill Evans. He went to Imagineering. He invented the berm that separates Disneyland and castle parks from the rest of the world.
It's a giant mound of earth all around the property.
A giant landscaped mound of earth. They weren't able to do the hardscapes and transitions between the hub and different lands, so Walt took his neighbor Wilton Beckett's advice and hired landscape designer Ruth Shellhorn. Things were frantic as everyone worked to get Disneyland ready for opening day. Bill Walsh created Disneyland's mission statement, and Walt took a lot of his opening day speech out of this mission statement, so it may sound familiar in places. The idea of Disneyland is a simple one. It will be a place for people to find happiness and knowledge. It will be a place for parents and children to share pleasant times in one another's company. A place for teachers and pupils to discover greater ways of understanding and education. Here the older generation can recapture the nostalgia of days gone by, and the younger generation can savor the challenge of the future. Here will be the wonders of nature and man for all to see and understand. Disneyland will be based upon and dedicated to the ideals, the dreams, and the hard facts that have created America, and it will be uniquely equipped to dramatize these areas and facts and send them forth as a source of courage and inspiration to the world. Disneyland will be something of a fair, an exhibition, a playground, a community center, a museum of living facts, and a showplace of beauty and magic. It will be filled with accomplishments, the joys and hopes of the world we live in, and it will remind us and show us how to make the wonders part of our own lives. Did you recognize parts of the opening day speech from there?
Yes, I could hear elements of it.
Nat Weinkauf and Stevie Wood, before construction started, invited heads of the amusement park industry to preview Disneyland. They unanimously hated it and said it would fail, that having just one entrance would create terrific bottlenecks, that focusing on having the park clean and landscaped was suicide, that the animals in the Jungle Cruise would sleep all day. Okay, they were right about that one. But they worked it out for Kilimanjaro safaris eventually, and Jungle Cruise too. That's okay. Walt's own people believed in him. Walt brought in USC Chouinard alumnus Dick Irvine, yes, as in the Richard F. Irvine steamboat, and Marvin Davis. Irvine took the drawings made by Disney artists to the architects and made sure that they looked the same. Marvin Davis supplied hundreds of drawings and married Walt's niece while he was at it. Those two formed, said Snow, the heart of the WED team. More on WED next time.
Now, we're going to pause again so that we can have some words from our sponsors. As always, it would be great if you supported the people that support us. And we're back. Now, Shelly, if people are interested in finding out more of your work, where can they reach you?
You can find me at micechat.com, the happiest place in cyberspace.
Now, if they want to support this podcast, where can they go to support it?
patreon.com/fab, F-A-B.
That's easy to find. If I'm on summer break right now, but if you like video games and if you like the occasional look at comic books and animation, you can find me on the Street Writer podcast. So just do a Google search. I should be the first one that comes up.
How many episodes do you have?
Of the podcast itself?
Yeah.
I have about a dozen recorded.
Uh-huh.
Mostly covering the history of Street Fighter and fighting game characters. But I have close to 2,000 or 1,000 actual blogs written on video games and comics and animation. So
I'd say closer to 2,000.
well, maybe 2,000. I lose track of these things. But you can always find my page if you just do a quick Google search and if you're interested in learning more about some subjects. That's it for this episode. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you on the next episode when we continue our detailed look at Disneyland on the Pink Monorail podcast, Manufacturing the Magic. A special thank you to our sponsor, Circa 1955. Nicole founded the company Lux Illume. She is a huge theme park fan, especially a huge Disney fan. Her subline, Circa 1955, has candles, wax melts, and room sprays that capture the magic of the theme parks, movies, and even television shows. If you order from their site and use the code PINK15, that's PINK15, then you'll receive 15% off your first order. Be sure to support a small company that supports us. The Pink Monorail podcast is part of the Jim Hill Media Podcast Network. This includes The Disney Dish, Fine Tuning, Epic Universal Podcast, I Want That Too, and Marvel Us Disney. Be sure to support and like the other channels as well. Have a great day.